Looking for fascinating conversations with industry thought leaders? Want to get the inside scoop from local legends? Interested in the stories behind the stories from celebrated visionaries? This is your home for the best our university has to offer. Welcome to We Are IU.
I am your host, Natty Metter, fellow IU alumna, staff member at the IU Foundation, and I am so excited to be with you this special episode on We Are IU. It is spring in Bloomington, and that means just a few things. Our town has come alive with students walking to class, tulips are blooming all over our gorgeous campus, and there is an energy in the air that can only be attributed to one thing. Known as the world's greatest college weekend, the greatest time of year, in my opinion, the Indiana University Foundation is in full swing as they get ready for the Little 500. I am thrilled to be joined by current students, former Little 500 champions, and incredible staff as we dive into one of the most special traditions on IU Bloomington's campus, the Indiana University Student Foundation's Little 500. The largest collegiate bike race in the United States. Oh my gosh, before I get carried away, let's meet some of our awesome guests today. I have with me Bridget Pfau, a member of the IU Student Foundation's Riders Council and Delta Gamma cycling team, and Kelsey Jacobson, former cyclist for Delta Gamma and coach of the 2012 and 2013 Little 500 championship teams. Can we talk through some experiences of Rookie Week? And for those that don't know what Rookie Week is, it's the time where all new riders are required to go through a series of lessons on the Little 500 track, a 400-meter cinder track, of which people ride upwards of 20 to 25 miles an hour. So obviously there's no chance of getting hurt. Can you share a little bit about your experience and some of those first days on the Little 500 track?
It was definitely an adjustment. It's nothing like anything anyone's ever done before in terms of, sports and athletics. And I remember my first day on the track, we were getting in line to jump on our bikes. The first two girls in line, they just get on and do it perfectly first try. And so I broke the ice for everybody by being the first one to fall that day. But I also remember I never really got the hang of riding a bike before Little 500. So that was definitely a learning curve for me.
And having to learn to ride clips, I remember that was really hard. Going up Bolting House, the hill, and having to stop at a stop sign in clips, I just tipped over, multiple times with all these riders. But yeah, it's hard to explain unless you have done it, riding Little 5 or been a part of that community. It's just something really special.
So I've always been so impressed by how many people have had an experience with the Little 500, either being a rider, being on steering committee, serving on a committee, and general membership through the Student Foundation. I wonder if you can share anything you have learned about yourself through that time and what the Little 500 experience provided you as you think about your growth through your time at IU.
Yeah, I would say as a freshman coming on, I was the lap counter. My team was yeah, do your rookie hour, sure, but we have our team set. So, I was the lap counter. But to see us win, I'm you get hooked. You're yes, I want to come back and train and do all these long hours and sit on a bike and be uncomfortable. And you're committed to all these hours. Just the camaraderie and I don't know, showing up for one another. It was fun. Oh, it was a lot of fun.
It is. I will always say it is the most profound experience of my entire life was participating in the Little 500 and being a part of the IU Student Foundation. And Bridget, you're on Riders Council. Riders Council is a big commitment on top of leading your team to train and prepare and get ready for the race. So can you share a little bit about Riders Council?
Yeah, so I actually got into Riders Council through one of my alum, Shannon Kerr. She's my captain. I remember being drawn to that committee because we focused a lot on, getting the female representation in Little 500 up and just trying to have as many teams register as possible. So being able to see tangible results and watching the number of teams go up, every week or before registration closed was really rewarding. And then coming back my senior year, I knew it was 75th anniversary and I was I have the opportunity here to do something different, be a part of something that's, only going on for this year. So I'm now part of the 75th anniversary committee and I'm just we're all looking forward to race day and trying to see like, the work we've built throughout the year come to fruition, and hopefully be a memorable day for everybody, for alum, for people coming back after 20 years or whoever. We just want to make it as memorable as possible and try to honor the history and the alumni.
Any little 500 race that I've attended always seems, after every single one, it's always like, that was the best day ever. And then it happens a year later in April, every single year. And so I wonder, as you are thinking particularly about this really incredible celebration that we're coming on, the 75th running of the men's Little 500, what are you looking forward to most?
In each of our meetings, like what we look at each other and say is just like, if you were coming back here as an alumni, like what would you want to see? And we bring that to our bigger meetings as well. We ask steering committee, we ask riders council, if you're walking into the race on race day and your first impression of the atmosphere, like how do you want to feel? Like we're trying to emote some sort of like, feeling of this day is so special, and it's, trying to honor everyone that came before. So trying to like pick everyone's brains for like exactly how we can make that feeling kind of come to the surface when people walk into the stadium on race day.
There's something really special, though, walking around that Little 500 track and seeing how many alumni are participating in the race still 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years later, right? And I think that's part of what makes this Little 500 community so special, is this undescribable support that happens from this community of people who believe in this thing and come back to make it better year after year.
I mean, and just like lifelong friends. I know that sounds like pretty corny, but like some of the bridesmaids in my wedding were from Little Five, were from not necessarily my sorority, and like just like the friendship, and like people go and they move all across the country, but like, some of my very best friends I met through either Delta Gamma or Little Five riding, like different years. And it's just nice that it, you still have that years and years later.
Yeah. We've talked a lot about bike racing, and most people who may be listening are probably thinking about bikes in the most traditional sense, with gears and brakes on handlebars and fancy bells and whistles. The Little 500 bike, though, is a bit unique. Bridget, can you tell us a little bit about the Little 500 bike and this iteration?
Yeah, so it's a single speed, back pedal brake track bike, and it's really different than riding any sort of other bike. I mean, just with mounting, dismounting, how we do exchanges, it's kind of a whole new version of riding. Like, it's definitely an adjustment at first. It's the most fun, and although it can be dangerous, I know that we all like so much prefer training on the track, because it starts to really feel real when you're out there on that bike, thinking about, you can start to envision, like, this is where I'm going to be on race day. This is how it's going to feel. This is what it's going to look like. Riders Council usually submits designs for what the bike can look like. And after we transferred to state, they've been able to give us some really cool designs. So the Riders Council members have been getting really creative with it. And this is the one we voted on for this year. I think we're all really excited to ride it this spring.
The women's race is 100 laps. The men's race is 200. Can you share a little bit about the uniqueness of the Little 500 bike race?
As I said before, different than any other bike race that I've ever done, but it's really similar in style to the Indy 500. So we got 4 riders, relay style. You have one person on the bike at a time, and after they're set, they come in for an exchange. You're pitted in certain places around the track, and where you're pitted can affect how your strategy is going to look. So they come in, and while they're getting off the bike, you're kind of getting on it. And it's supposed to happen in one fluid motion, but it takes a lot of practice for you to really get it down pat, and it's a lot of repetition. But eventually it's muscle memory, and some of my coaches still can do an exchange in their sleep. Like, they get out there on the pavement and they'll do an exchange in front of us.
Kelsey Jacobson, can you still do an exchange?
Not in jeans, but I mean, I could if we had more time. Something Bridget said that just reminded me, like a cinder track. Almost like everyone I know, like you all have still cinder in you. Like everyone has it on their knees. I have some on my hip, and it's just like, a little tattoo that Little 5 left for you.
Tiny Little 500 trophies all over our bodies. Yeah. Kelsey and Bridget, thank you so much for joining us as we have reflected on what is one of the most special traditions on IU Bloomington's campus, the Little 500 bike race. Oh my gosh, the Little 500 fun continues. I am now joined by Dan Gerritsen and Emily Carrico. Dan and Emily, how are you guys?
fantastic. The sun is shining. It's nearly April in Bloomington, and you can just feel all the energy picking up.
Couldn't say it better. We're talking about Little Five, so it's fantastic. Every chance we get a chance to talk about it. So,
And Emily, the director of the IU Student Foundation, former race director of the IU Student Foundation for the Little 500, a former writer, former Writers Council. I mean, you check all the boxes, all things Little 500. Can you share with us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, I know I've been so lucky to serve in every role I could possibly want to, and each role just keeps getting better and more gratifying. So I always think I have the best job, and then something else comes along and I'm proved wrong. As a writer, I was so focused on the race and my team and friends, and it was just incredibly gratifying to have such a challenge and take things on and just work on this continuous improvement, not just for myself, but to be better and be able to contribute to a team. And then as a staff member, it's a completely different perspective, right? I'm not very invested in who wins. It's something where I'm really lucky to get to just see the growth of all of our students. I cheer for all of them.
Absolutely. And it's so true. Coming up on the 75th running of the men's Little 500, and the IU Student Foundation offices have books after books of photos from all of those experiences over the years, dating back to 1951. Dan, I wonder if you have experience, reflection, memories around your time as a student here and writing in Little 500, some memories that may be popping up for you as we're starting into this conversation.
in 1990 when we won, I just remember seeing the houses, sororities and fraternities, enjoying the post-race thing that everybody does, right? And it was just a great feeling to see that. That was an example of community, I think. But why I love the event so much is that in Emily's case, she did not ride for a house, she rode for an organization. It is a student-wide event. And I think that's probably one of the best things that the race offers. It's open to everyone that's an IU student. And I love that. I love that. I love that as a student, and I love that more so, I think, now as an alum.
Outside of hosting this incredible bike race, the IU Student Foundation is incredibly central to student philanthropy on campus. And I think that is something that is a common theme as people have continued to share their experience with the Little 500.
Yeah, something that people don't always associate with the Little 500 is philanthropy. And it actually started as a bike race to raise money for working students at IU. So the core and roots of this race are in philanthropy, and that's one reason it makes a lot of sense that it is with the Student Foundation. So over the years, we've raised millions of dollars for student scholarships. We currently have 38 scholarships that reside with the Student Foundation. And right now we have our Students Helping Students campaign. So our students select a campus initiative that they feel is important to them and their peers and can make an impact.
It's so inspiring. And as you were talking, I was being reminded of the iterations of how the Little 500 even got started. Right? I mean, it happened before your time, before my time, before Dan's time. And so I wonder if you could share a little bit about the history of the Little 500 and how it came to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So Howdy Wilcox was looking for a way to engage students. And he was out wandering on campus and saw these students racing their bikes around dorms, and there were people yelling out the windows and cheering the students on, and he thought, oh my gosh, this might be something. So his father had actually won the Indy 500, so he took that heritage that he had, the bikes that he saw on campus and that student interest, and married those together to have the first Little 500, which took place in 1951.
Wow. Well, thank you, Howdy Wilcox, for creating such a time-honored tradition and it being supported by other campus leadership as it became apparent that students were wanting to gather together to create a community of people. And Dan, I wonder if you can share a little bit about your experience thinking about preparing for the Little 500 race and maybe some of the reflection you might have of seeing how that's changed over the years since you've graduated.
Yeah, I think I distinctly in 1989, this is another reason why I love the race so much. The races so much. It has no memory. So in 1989, we were one lap away from winning the race. We were in the lead with 1 lap to go. We are one of 10 teams on the lead lap. We finished 10th in 1989. And so that's what I love about it. It's unforgiving, right? It's like, so what? Let's go do it again. Because if I've always said, and this I don't think has changed over time, if you have the ability that particular year to be on lead lap, you got a shot to win. And you could have finished 26th. I don't care. It's like, how did you finish? How far off the lead were you? And so that preparation or that mindset, how we looked at training from 89, happy to be there, great outcome, somewhat surprised perhaps, to 90, which was the focus on, okay, we now know what we can do or we're capable of, and let's make sure we can maintain that competitiveness and do everything we can to maintain and be on lead lap at the end. And based on our performance, actually, we were so far ahead. Eventually, Acacia closed a little bit, but we had done exactly what we wanted to do in 90.
You know, I appreciate you sharing that. And I have goosebumps thinking just about the amount of dedication each student puts into getting ready for race day, and how you show up on that line on race day and you take those 3 laps, as you hear back home again in Indiana, before they wave the flag to start the race. And really at that very moment, you realize this is anyone's day. What makes the Little 500 so special that teams come year after year after year to participate in the race?
I'm getting goosebumps as you talk about back home again in Indiana.
I was too when you said
Right.
that.
I can only listen to that song on race day. I refuse to
100% true.
otherwise. But I think that it really is just so much bigger than a race and then one day or one weekend. You see thousands and thousands of fans come into the stadium, and they're cheering on, what is an intramural competition. But I think for each student that participates, they have their own reasons. But I think the commonality is you're being part of this fantastic tradition. You have all these people cheering you on, and they're proud of you, and you're proud of yourself, because just to set foot on that track on race day, no matter the finish or where you start, it's a real accomplishment. It's not an easy thing to do, and for students to balance that with their studies and other things they're involved with on campus, it's really, really impressive. So there's just nothing else like it.
It is a spectacle in the best way possible. And that really hit me a few years ago. My wife and I went back to watch it, and I was a part of it. I was there as a participant to see my brother race, and then I ended up riding in front of thousands of people, as you accurately pointed out. But then to see it later, much later after that, and it all kind of soaked in. It was like, oh my gosh, there's still 15,000 people coming here, and they're all paying, which is fantastic because it's a spectacle and people want to be part of that. I love the fact that it has been and continues to be a very competitive race. Some years there's more teams vying to win than others, but 33 teams typically are there and they show up and it's go time. And that's a great feeling.
Well, and it's no surprise why they call it the greatest college weekend, because it truly is. I think it's just the greatest weekend. I think about the impact of the Little 500 in our community as well, and the idea of showing our youth that there are these really wonderful opportunities to get involved, particularly in the women's race.
Our students find teams and find their way to the Little 500 in so many different ways. We have friends who just know each other from high school and say, man, I really miss having that team sport, or I want to make sure that we stay friends. Let's just go ahead and start our own team, and that would be an independent team. We have folks who are attached to residence halls, and so their team may or may not originate from that residence hall, but the support from that community helps carry them. And then we have those who are looking to represent, their organizations, like their Greek orgs, and their house is looking to field a team, and somehow, some way, they get talked into like, hey, it'd be really fun. You should really spend your weekends doing. You can get up early and go on some bike rides, and then in February, the Cinder track opens, and we should really go spend some time outdoors in Indiana in February. It'll be great. Right. So there's so many different ways that our students find their way to the race, and it's always great to hear their why.
All of our paths end up sort of similar but different, and I think that's the most beautiful experience. We all leave with the same feeling that the Little 500 is just such a special thing on our campus, all with the goal to at one day maybe hold that beautiful trophy that is right next to you, Emily. I was wondering if you could share a little bit about the Borg Warner trophy.
The Borg Warner is a replica of the Indianapolis 500 Borg Warner. It's silver, and each year our winning teams get their names, their average speed, and the year engraved on it. We've had to add a base, as you can see, to accommodate some of those teams, and I'm not sure what happens when that base runs out of space, so we'll find out. But there's definitely a reason that I'm sitting between it and Dan. His team might have been responsible for the time that the top of this fell off.
Respectfully, I beg to differ. And the video footage, or what's left of that, may show that we had nothing to do with that, but I can explain.
We're going to have to hear that story. It is a beautiful trophy, and if you're able to get up close to it, it really is amazing, because that trophy just shows the tradition and the commitment and the experience of all of these students who have shown up on race day and all other days in between that one day in April to be able to maybe hold that thing. But Dan, I have to ask, there is a photo of you holding topsy-turvy, the top part of that trophy. What happened?
Yeah, so when it happened in real time, it was so quick that I didn't appreciate what happened. Looking back on it now, I'm grateful what happened. So my teammate Mike Bars, after having a phenomenal race, and after the post-game or post-race celebrations were being presented with these, the Borg Warner was one of the trophies that was presented, and Mike excitedly holds it up, and it's heavy, and holds it up, and then, not purposely, but just maybe leans to his right or his left. And the top had not been secured. I don't know if it's secured right now, but
Hope so.
And it comes, and I'm standing right next to him, and thankfully
You caught it.
I caught it and secured it. I think it would have been it wouldn't have been a good situation had I not, had I dropped it. But much like our team that year, we were rock solid on exchanges, and that was maybe the exclamation point on that.
Yeah. You definitely were made sure that people knew that you were the winner that year. As you're thinking about the Little 500 and how it has impacted your life beyond graduation and being on that track when you were here, what would you say?
Emily?
Gosh, that's so hard to summarize. How much time do we have? I suppose I'm in a unique role now because it's still part of my day-to-day life. But even if I were working elsewhere, I mean, my teammates are still some of the people that I talk to every single day. I met my partner through Little 500, as much as I hate to admit that. And it's something that just really taught me what it means to work hard and be, part of something larger than yourself. There are so many days where maybe I'd have a headache or it would be cold outside. And I just, I could just not ride. I could just not do this. But then you think about the impact that you're able to have, not only in assisting your team and being part of the field, but also just being part of this larger tradition and raising money for fantastic causes. So that's really what motivated me. And I hope everyone gets to have an experience like that.
A movie has been made. Networks have come in. ESPN, before that it was CBS. MTV came when MTV was still relevant and still meant something, right? I mean, it's a big deal, and to be part of that and what it benefits, it's incredible. Separately, the work that everyone puts in to train, that's hard. That stinks. It's cold oftentimes, a lot of our training months. And, you pivot that to what you may do professionally and are in the workforce. To have that experience, those experiences of adversity at times and it being tough, it is so cliche to say, but it does impact you in the positive way professionally. It has a great impact on you. It helps form you as an individual.
Well, thank you, Dan and Emily, so much for spending some time sharing your experience from the Little 500. Emily, your experience being a writer and now working on staff is something I think is the most special thing. You mentioned it, and so many people agree you have the greatest job on earth. So thank you for sharing that. And Dan, the shared experience you had with your brother, going on to win the Little 500 for your fraternity, and what you've given back to our program now is just so wonderful. So thank you so much for spending time with us today. The fun continues with steering committee member Sarah Fry. Sarah is joining me today to share her experience with the Little 500. It is hard to believe that it has been 75 years since this wonderful tradition started. We've talked to riders about their experience, getting ready for the race and all of the training. What we have not touched on, which I think is so important, is what it takes to put on the Little 500.
It takes a lot of people who are like-minded, as I like to think of it. We all had the goal of, we love what we do so much, and we have all been so passionate about this, and we want to put on a good race from our standpoint and what we can do. So just putting on the best race possible and kind of all having that understanding that we want to do this together.
It's a great perspective, and I think it reminds me of how unique the experience is. And as you're thinking about particularly your role on the steering committee now with the 75th running of the men's Little 500 race, what are some things that you're learning along the way about the men's race and ways in which you are capturing that uniqueness with your committee?
Our goals for this year were to celebrate students and alumni and to get them engaged within the race. And I have learned so much about the race throughout this time. I've been watching a lot of old race tapes recently from the 50s. So I feel like it's just, that's our goal, is to make that so special. And how do we do that for the alumni coming back, and what can they have where they're like, this is part what I'm here for.
What's the biggest difference you see in races that were happening in the 50s and 60s versus today?
In the 50s and 60s, I was watching the fifth or sixth race, and it was very in quals, and they're just kind of throwing themselves off the bike as they're exchanged. And I was like, well, but it's so smooth, it looked so good. And now we have more of a technique to go along with it. So that was really interesting watching. But then also, they didn't have the technology we now have. So they don't have the tracker on the bike doing the timing, and they were all handwriting, taking off the laps and everything. So just seeing oh, this is how quals was then. Now it makes sense where we're at now and how we've kind of gotten there and learned from that. So it's been interesting to watch it back and see how things have evolved, but also stayed the same. It's the same process still, but maybe newer technology or different techniques for how they're jumping on and off the bike.
I've heard multiple people say they've had goosebumps today, right? But what I think sometimes we aren't able to capture in words is the amount of knowledge and lessons learned that have been passed down literally through generations. And so your reflection on having watched back some races from the very beginning to now, and ways that the race has changed but remained the same, I think is really special. And from your seat, from the steering committee perspective, I wonder if you can share, as you and your steering committee are upon the last final months of being together, what steering committee has meant to you in your experience with IU Student Foundation.
Well, that gives me chills. It makes me emotional because those people are my best friends and have been the people who will support me no matter what. And I was I didn't even know you all a year and a half ago. And we're all, if you looked at us and you knew kind of was oh, this is your major, or this is what you've been interested in, you'd be this, how are you all so close? We're so close. And then once we're all together, we just click immediately. The people have made the place for me, and obviously the traditions and everything that have come along with it, but I couldn't be more grateful for my steering committee class because we went through all the race together. We kind of all have that very niche idea of what we went through, and all the steering committee classes have it, but some are well, I was the 40th year and this is what we did. So we all kind of have our little niche, what we've done. But just the people have made the biggest impact on me and have really shaped who I am coming out of it now. Yeah.
As we wrap up, what are you most looking forward to for this Little 500?
I'm most looking forward to, there's so much. There's an exciting new pace car, which I'm excited about, and probably just the amount of alumni. We've had so many alumni come and tell us they're coming back and just wanting to make the race special for them. I feel like that's just what makes me excited. They're like hopefully this is a record amount of alumni. And so that's just going to be so exciting on both ends, riders and steering committee, to see everyone come back together to celebrate the 75th running.
Sarah, thank you so much for spending time. I always love the opportunity, having been part of the Little 500 from the rider's perspective. I always love having the opportunity to sit down with people who have experienced the Student Foundation through the lens of the steering committee, because oftentimes we forget that it takes a whole lot of effort to make a memorable experience with the Little 500. So thank you for spending time with us, and good luck with this experience. It's been a great time talking to you.
Thank you so much.
What incredible reflection on the power of community. And the Little 500 community is definitely special. We hope you leave feeling inspired by this tradition of student leadership, philanthropy, and bike racing.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of We Are IU. Your home for fascinating conversations with thought leaders, legends, and visionaries from the university we know and love. New episodes available monthly at myiu.org.